Hi everyone and welcome to Germany for Student channel. Today is lesson number 25th of A2 level of German language course, and today we are going to talk about relative Sätze or relative sentences. We are almost at the half of A2 level, and at this point I would like to ask for your opinion whether you are following the content, whether you are finding it easy to understand, whether it's difficult for you to follow, and if any suggestion you have in order to improve the content further so that you can understand it in a better way. So let's start with the today's lesson. What are relative sentences? Relative sentences are a form of Nebensatz. Nebensatz, we have covered it in A2 level of German language course where we followed the conjugations of thus and while. So like while and thus sentences where we use the concept of Nebensatz whenever we want to use the relative Satz or relative sentence, we also have to follow the concept of Nebensatz. We will go into its detail, but first let's have a look at the relative pronouns. Relative pronouns in German language are called relative pronomen, and why we are covering these relative pronomens here is because relative sentence will always start with the relative pronoun. So it's important for us to understand and know what are relative pronouns. Relative pronouns are the definite articles that we have already covered in A1 level of German language course and that we are following and using in almost every lesson in every example. So if we are using a nominative case and we have a masculine noun, then we have a definite article der. Now in relative sentence for a masculine noun in nominative case, the relative pronoun will be der. If we have a feminine noun in nominative case, the relative pronoun will be die. If we have a neuter noun in nominative case, the relative pronoun will be thus. If we have a plural noun in nominative case, the relative pronoun will be die. And the relative Satz or relative sentence will always start with the relative pronoun. So we have to use one of these relative pronouns at the start of the sentence. Relative sentence, how we have to decide it? Let's look at the sentence structure of it. So we know that relative sentence has a main sentence and a relative sentence, which is the Nebensatz. So first we look at the main sentence structure. So main sentence structure, we keep it simple that we have a subject that comes at first position. Then at second position, we have a verb and the verb is conjugated according to the subject of sentence. At third position, we have the object. In place of object, we can have a preposition, adjective, negation, or anything like that. Then we will make a comma. We will put a comma as soon as the main sentence ends. After that, we will give one space and then we will use one of the relative pronouns depending on the gender of the noun that we are referring to. We will follow this in the examples in the next slide. If the noun that we are referring to is masculine, then we will use der as a relative pronoun. If the noun that we are referring to is feminine, then we will use die. If the noun that we are referring to is neuter, then we will use thus. Then the next part of the sentence will come. It can have any information or any negation. For example, any preposition can come. And the verb, we know that it goes to the last position of the sentence and it is conjugated according to the subject of the sentence in the Nebensatz, not in the Hauptsatz, rather in the Nebensatz. We take another option or another possibility if where we follow the same sentence structure for the main sentence, but we say that in Nebensatz or in the relative sentence, we have a perfect tense, and in perfect tense, we know that we have to use participe zwei form of the verb, and we have to use sein or haben verb. In this case, participe zwei will come at second last position, and at last position, sein or haben will come, and it will be conjugated according to the subject of Nebensatz. Then we have another option where it can be the case that we use a modal verb in the relative sentence. In this case, the sentence will start with relative pronoun, which can be der, die, or thus. Then next part of the sentence will come. Main verb will come at second last position, and it will be in the infinitive form, whereas the modal verb will come at the last position of the sentence, and it will be conjugated according to the subject of the sentence. So let's look at the examples to see how relative sentences are made. If we have two sentences, let's say Paul hat eine Katze. Paul has a cat. Sie schläft immer unter dem Tisch. It always sleeps under the table. Now, these are two sentences. If we want to connect them, or if we want to put them in the relative sentence form or format, then it will be Paul hat eine Katze. So the first part of the sentence or the main sentence will remain as it is. Then we put a comma, and then we start the sentence with the relative pronoun. Now, in the first sentence, we are saying Paul has a cat. And in the second sentence, we are providing more information about the cat. Therefore, we have to see what is the gender of the cat. Cat is a feminine noun in German language, and for feminine noun, we have a definite article die in nominative case. Therefore, we will use this die article as a relative pronoun, and we will put it at the start of Nebensatz or the relative Satz. Then we will put the next information that we want to give about the cat, that is immer unter dem Tisch. Now, unter is a two-way preposition, and in this sentence, it is acting as a dative preposition. So we will use definite article for a masculine noun Tisch from the dative case, which is dem. So unter dem Tisch, and we learned that we have to put the main verb at the last position of the sentence, and we have to conjugate it according to the subject of the Nebensatz, and the subject of Nebensatz is Katze or die. This die is referring to the Katze. So it is Paul hat eine Katze, die immer unter dem Tisch schläft. Paul has a cat that always sleeps under the table. So in English, we use who or that. In this sentence, we are referring to Katze, therefore we are using that. And in German language, we have to use the relative pronoun for the noun that we are giving more information about. So this die is actually referring to Katze. Lisa wohnt in einer Wohnung. Lisa lives in an apartment. Sie ist sehr klein. That is very small. Now this sie means that apartment, because apartment is a feminine noun. Now if we want to put these two sentences in the relative sentence format, it will be Lisa wohnt in einer Wohnung. So the main sentence will come as it is. Then we will put a comma, and we will start the Nebensatz or the relative sentence. And we know that relative sentence always starts with the relative pronoun. And here we are referring to Wohnung. We are giving more information about the Wohnung. Therefore, we have to see what is the gender of Wohnung. Wohnung is a feminine noun, so we will use the definite article for a feminine noun from nominative case, because this definite article will act like a relative pronoun that we have learned in the initial slide. So, Lisa wohnt in einer Wohnung, die sehr klein ist. Ich habe ein Hobby, das ist sehr teuer. Now, if I want to put these sentences in relative sentence format, it would be Ich habe ein Hobby, das sehr teuer ist. Now, what we are referring through this thus is that we are referring to the hobby. We are giving more information about hobby in the Nebensatz. So we will use the relative pronoun thus for the hobby or the noun about which we are giving more information in the Nebensatz. Let's look at some other examples. Woher kommt der Student, der so gut Deutsch spricht? Where does this student come from who speaks so good German? Now, in this sentence, we are referring to student in the Nebensatz or in the relative sentence. Therefore, we will use the relative pronoun for a masculine noun from a nominative case, which is der. So gut Deutsch is the next part of the sentence, and sprechen is the verb that we have to use in this sentence, and this will be used at the last position of the sentence, and it will be conjugated according to the subject of the sentence, um, which is der, and it is referring to a masculine third person singular for which sprechen becomes spricht. Kennst du den Lehrer? Do you know the teacher, der uns Mathe unterrichtet, who teaches us maths? Now, in the Nebensatz or in the relative sentence, we are giving more information about teacher. Therefore, teacher is a masculine noun, and for masculine noun, we will use the relative pronoun for a masculine noun in nominative case, which is der. Uns Mathe Unterricht. And we can see that here in the Nebensatz, teacher or der is the subject of the sentence, and the subject of sentence is always nominative case. And verb is at the last position. Verb is unterrichten, which means to teach, and it is conjugated here according to the subject. Therefore, it becomes unterrichtet. Das ist der Mann, der den Hund gestohlen hat. This is the man who has stolen the dog. Now, if we look at this sentence, das ist der Mann, this is the main sentence, this is the man. Now, in the next sentence, in the relative sentence, we are giving more information about this person, and that main information is that this is the man who has stolen the dog. Now, since it is the subject of the Nebensatz, therefore we have to use definite article for a masculine noun in nominative case as a relative pronoun, which is der. And because the dog is being stolen, dog is the object of the sentence, therefore we have used den Hund. And it is a perfect tense, therefore we have to use participe zwei form of the verb and put it at the second last position of the sentence, and at the last position of the sentence in this case we have to use haben or sein. In this sentence we have to use haben, and we have to conjugate it according to the subject of the Nebensatz. Therefore haben becomes hat. Besucht seinen Freund. He visits his friend. Der in Berlin wohnt. Who lives in Berlin? So in this example, in Hauptsatz, we are saying he visits his friend. Because his friend is being visited, therefore he is the object of the sentence. and object of the sentence is always accusative. Therefore, we have to use seinen Freund because Freund is a masculine noun, and for masculine noun, we have to use the seinen as a possessive pronoun ending for a masculine noun, Freund. And in the Nebensatz, we are giving more information about his friend. But in Nebensatz, it's the subject of the sentence. Therefore, we will use a definite article for a masculine noun from nominative case as a relative pronoun. Then the next part of the sentence will come, which is in Berlin, and wohnen is the a verb that will come at the last position of the sentence and will be conjugated according to the subject of Nebensatz. So wohnen becomes wohnt. So these are the examples that we have gone through. I hope that the concept is clear to you now. In the upcoming lessons, we will continue this concept and we will cover other cases like accusative and dative so that you are always sure how to use these relative pronouns if they are in nominative, accusative, and dative case. Please don't forget to share your feedback. Thank you. Bye.